This video will take you through the editing basics of Chaos Culture's frame editor.
Editing basics.
The timeline can be used for navigating the animation. Click or drag on the fields to select the current frame. By doing so, all notes on this frame will be played back and your controller will therefore show the current frame of the animation. With the arrow keys of your keyboard, you can also move the current frame 1 or 10 frames. You can select multiple frames by holding down the Shift key, and by holding down the Command key, you can zoom in and out to view more or less steps. With these numbers in the bottom left, you can also set the current frame, zoom, and selection. There is no limit on how many frames can be used. You can even edit frames below frame 0, only the timeline won't be able to show them. The selection tool can be used to either set the start or the end of the selection to the current frame. Click it on the left or right side to do so. By holding down the Command key, you can also access a few options of the MIDI clip. On the top, you can toggle between loop and one-shot mode for all clips that are being edited. With the length option, you can set the start and end points of the MIDI clip to the selection. Press any button on your MIDI controller to draw notes into the current frame. The incoming MIDI notes from the controller will be saved inside the clips. You can remove a note simply by pressing a button again. By navigating with the arrow keys, you can quickly draw shapes and build up a small animation without using the mouse. The copy tool can copy either the current frame or the selection of multiple frames. Select single for the current frame and multi for the selection. It saves the notes inside an internal clipboard so you can copy frames from an animation to a different one. The paste tool will paste the clipboard at the position of the current frame. By selecting replace, the content of the current frame will be overwritten by the new content, with on top the old content will remain and the copied notes will be added to it. When multiple frames were copied, the device will then also give you the option to paste the frames in reverse time. The duplication tool copies the current frame, moves the current frame to the next one and inserts it. You can set it to replace the content of the next frame or place it on top of it, just like the paste tool. You can preview what an animation will look like by either scrolling through the frames in the timeline or by closing the window and playing back the clips you are currently editing. The Erase tool clears the current frame or the selection of multiple frames. Select single for the current frame or multi for the selection. By default, pressing a lit button on your controller will remove it. With this button, you can change the drawing mode in order to replace a note with a new velocity instead of removing it. By activating it, deleting a note becomes impossible, but if you want to change velocities of a few notes to change the displayed colours, this is a faster approach. By activating the colour picker in the main view, the device waits for the next input of one of the connected controllers. By pressing on an already lit button, it will read its velocity and use it for a future drawing. The last button in this interface is the finalizer, an additional feature to the frame editor. By finalizing an animation, notes with the same pitch and velocity, which are positioned right beside each other, will be connected. It replaces them with a longer note so that in the end the control doesn't have to re-trigger the same LEDs with the same colour, which can cause flickering. A finalised kit is locked and can't be edited, but with this button you can also unlock it and split it back into the shorter notes. The track names are displayed on top of the matrix. By clicking on them, you can open up a custom window for each controller, which then allows you to set up a range of colours. It is possible to switch between 10 different velocities, and you can select them by clicking on the numbers in the top row. Below them, you can change the velocity number. Changes made on the selected colour will be directly shown on the controller to give you a preview of what colour this velocity will produce. The link button links the colours for all instances of the same controller type together. This way every push, regardless of pads or buttons, will use the same colours. Launch pads can sync their colour this way as well. Unless none is selected, drawing on the controller will now always use the same colour. The rectangle button can be used to draw a rectangle on the grid of the controller. After activating it, the device will take the next two incoming notes and creates the shape out of them with the fixed velocity.
Using effects.
The effects can be used by clicking on their names in this matrix. The volume menu is navigated by the keyboard. Selecting between the number of options is done by pressing the corresponding number. That way, it becomes easy to quickly set up parameters by memorizing the number sequence that needs to be pressed. For a few parameters, you have to enter a custom value which needs to be confirmed with the enter key. When affecting the selection instead of just the current frame, you'll often get the chance to modulate a certain value. A common use of this is to shift an image one spot further for every frame, for example. The modulating value will be multiplied by every frame of the selection.